And hello, Heart of Oak. Thanks so much for joining us once again. And I'm delighted to have an author join us, Dennis Kneale. Dennis, thanks so much for your time today.
So good to see you, Peter. And I'm happy to talk about my new book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. Is my timing great, or is my
Your,
timing actually horrible? Because now the Democrat Party has made him an enemy of the nation, or at least half of it.
your timing is perfect. And let's bring up that is the book. And we'll put all the links in the description, whether you want to get it on hardback, on paperback, on audiobook, on Kindle. It is there. And I've been delving into this over the weekend and then the beginning of this week. Fascinating book, Lessons from Elon, of which there are many, and of course the whole Doge issue, and the big beautiful bill. Lots to discuss, and is really current. So really appreciate you joining us today, Dennis. And of course, people can find you at Dennis Kneale there on X, on Twitter. Um, and well, I guess when Elon Musk, of course, one of the most influential figures of her time. I think you, in one of the little bios at the back of the book, you said is he's the most talked about man in America who isn't running for president yet, and that is so true.
Which is a
Um,
joke because, of course, he cannot run for president. And I think the publisher just kind of wrote that to kind of provoke and jab a bit, and it worked.
being South African born, yes, there are restrictions, but obviously Elon starting Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, Boring Company, AI, now XAI, and that I guess that relentless pursuit of excellence of growing these companies, and someone who is in the spotlight like never before, the world's richest man, and one of the most powerful men. A lot to discuss, but maybe I can ask you first of all a little bit about you, Dennis, award-winning journalist and media strategist. You've been advisor to many senior executives. You have got a podcast, What's Bugging Me? But give us a little bit about your background, media background, business background. Can
Sure.
what came first? What did you jump into
Yeah.
first?
Well, you know what? Journalism and being a reporter was from something I wanted to do from age 10. So when I went to the Wall Street Journal at the start of my career, asked to come up to the New York headquarters and interview for a job after they discovered my nomination in the Pulitzer Prize, it changed my life. And I just went to a Wall Street Journal reunion last Friday, as a matter of fact, with about 140 of us. And so I spent my biggest part of my career there. Then went on to managing editor of Forbes, anchor at CNBC and Fox Business, and then a decade ago, fired with 15 minutes notice by the Fox Business Network, escorted out by a security guard, and devastated, waited for those offers to roll in, baby, and nothing. And I thought I was so good. So I went out on my own a decade ago, and I've written 3 books for clients, or helped them write 3 books, I should say, including Lou Dobbs.
Yeah, I
And it's
saw the Lou Dobbs book you'd written. Yeah,
Yes,
fascinating.
I love that Lou Dobbs. My first time ever on television in 1989 was with Lou Dobbs when he had a show at CNN Business. And so wrote that and have been out on my own now, but then started this podcast a couple of years ago, What's Bugging Me, on the Ricochet Network, where finally I have a voice to tell the stories I see, to go against the media that wouldn't hire me, and to tell a different version of the truth, because I don't recognize what has happened to the media today. Trump broke them. We used to hide our bias. We had a slant. Well, we did the best to give on the one hand, on the other hand, if we were doing news pages, news stories. That's gone now. I can't believe the amount of slant I see in the media today, and it's because of Trump and the whole. I mean, think of this, Peter. How could anyone stage marches and protests and torching Teslas against what it is that Elon Musk was trying to do? Cut wasteful spending. Why did that become a thing to be decried and demonized? And it's because it was organized by Democrat funded groups, and Elon will come after them. He will go after them. He will be suing them. And we may even see criminal charges. And I hope we do, because they orchestrated these sometimes violent, dangerous protests. Bunch of environmental protectors torching lithium battery cars and sending terrible emissions into the skies.
It's been a learning curve on how the
Yeah,
other side work. But yeah, so let's call it leadership genius of Elon Musk. And the book is lesson one, lesson two, lesson three, and different lessons from
yeah,
Elon, who's a hugely complex character. And it's an interesting beginning. Lesson one is this all may be fake, so just go for it. And it's a curious place to start. And I
sure
guess
is.
it's kind of the opposite to anyone who of faith. And I mean, it's so that as a Christian, I believe that there is so much more to physical reality, and I believe my actions have eternal consequences. But Elon's actually belief that we are maybe in a matrix, or that's what
In a
he
matrix
talks about.
right now as we speak. And the thing was, the reason I started the book there, and then the PR, the HarperCollins PR people said, listen, in your interviews, you might finish with that. Don't start with that. It's just too weird. But this idea that we are in a video simulation that is utterly indistinguishable from real reality. And we might be in one. And if we're in one, we may not be in the main one. We may be in someone else inside the first one's own simulations. We may be a character there. Who knows? Well, the reason I started there for the book, for the 11 lessons of Elon, was because once you think it all might be a game, you just say, what the flop? Just go for it. Take that risk. Take on that risky job. Set that impossible goal. Dream huge, because you know what? You're filling in your own story. And I've come to believe in recent years that just by saying things and putting those thoughts into the universe, you can change your world. You can write your own script. And so then I start looking into it from a scientific standpoint. I interviewed this physicist named Melvin Vopson, who has coined the second law of information thermodynamics. The second law. And the second law of thermodynamics, invented in the 1880s, I think it was, says that the universe is constantly, producing waste, entropy, complexity, variation. And yet this guy came along, Vopson, and he said, but why, if so much stuff is being produced, does the entire mass of the universe never go up? It can't go up or down. It is the mass. It is everything. Where is it going, this increase? And he ends up realizing that information is being reduced all the time in nature. The COVID virus started with a huge chain of DNA, and 16 generations later, it's just this sleek little efficient thing with far fewer characters. Why is the universe reducing information in all these different areas? Oh, is it because it's a simulation and you need to save on compute storage space? They estimate it would take maybe 45 to 47 planet Earths to do a simulation. And I got one more thing on this for you, though. Certainly we can believe when we came from Pong in 1970, little ping pong game,
Yeah.
to 3D virtual reality goggles 70 years later. Certainly we can believe that 10,000 years from now, definitely they could create a simulation like this that you cannot tell is not reality. True, 10,000 years from now. But on Earth is almost 1.4 billion years old, I think it is, or 3.98 billion years old, something like that. Yeah. That means we have 400,000 different units of time of 10,000 years. So what we're saying is that, oh, yeah, and 400,000 different tries of 10,000 years, we've never done it before. It only happened 10,000 years from now. And once you think about that, you think the odds, I mean, Elon then says, and since you have one simulation, you could have everyone playing their own, it could be billions. Aren't the chances billions to one in favor of the idea that, yes, this might be a simulation?
It's so different than normal thinking, and I guess sets Elon apart. And I don't know whether it's because he's on the spectrum, because he's autistic, or I don't know where this comes from.
Could
Uh,
be that he's
but
on ketamine.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, I know.
he's on a prescription ketamine for depression, and the Wall Street Journal went after him and just trashed him and won a Pulitzer Prize for all this investigative reporting without ever asking the question, how much was Tesla stock up in price in the time when you say, oh my gosh, the board's concerned he's using drugs? Because in one stint in a few years, it ran 700%. In the last month and a half or two, it's up something like 40 or 50%. So, exactly what is your complaint? New York Times last Sunday came out, a similar story. Oh, during Doge, he was using drugs, he was taking ketamine. Now, the interesting thing about ketamine, as I note in the book, is if you take a certain amount, there becomes this dissociated effect where you now are outside the picture and everything in front of you looks smaller. It looks like a Potemkin village, a fake set, props, as if everything is a play, as if everything is just an illusion. You become more aware of this separate reality that is inside yourself, and that the rest of it out here may be just an illusion. And that hooks in and reinforces this possibility of a matrix. But what I offer to the reader, because I want us to get 11 lessons from Elon that we can apply to make for a better life for ourselves. And just think that because of the mere possibility it may be true, what if we were to live out loud a little louder? What if we were to love a little more out loud and tell people we love them and remind them of that? What if we were to realize that every day is filled with potential and can be glorious, and it's up to make it so and to see it that way? Too many of us today are shopping for umbrage. And the way we draw identity and the way we draw meaning to our life is to be upset at somebody who's done something terrible to some group that has no impact on us whatsoever. Hence LGBTQ crusaders marching for Palestine, where plenty of people there would throw them off of rooftops. I mean, instead we can realize that life is totally rich and wonderful, and it is so good to be alive and standing and well. And we need to start kind of focus on that glass half full. I'm sorry if it's Pollyanna. Did you know that scientific research shows that if instead of saying stuff like, oh, yeah, I'm having a good day, you say, I'm having a great day. Okay, your unconscious mind is like this 6-year-old. It believes everything it hears you say. And when you say, I'm having a great day, the mind then makes your conscious feel like you're having a great day because it believes it. And we cannot change the bad things that we happen in life, as I like to say, but we can certainly change how we choose to view them. And let us stop hanging crepe everywhere and being so fear-mongering. Politicians say, they're destroying America. People are terrified. Scott Pelley, a CBS anchor, speaking at a Wake Forest commencement speech the other day. People are so afraid. Why didn't you stop being a bunch of wussies and stand up and be courageous and overcome any fear instead of fanning the flames wherever you can? And they did this to try to oppose Elon. And they did this to turn him into a demon and to a villain. They had this whole thing, a Nazi salute. Then what's his name? A politician here just did it the other day. Media didn't say a word about it. Shameful.
No, exactly. No, he's treated so differently. The second chapter about simplicity and titled Reduce, and in a world of incredible increasing complexity, simplicity. And you actually start on it talking about money and the crazy spending habits of, I guess, these tech titans of Bezos and Gates and Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
You refer to Zuckerberg and his Ulysses yacht, 350-foot yacht, 150 million. Just these are numbers that just blow people away.
Boggle the mind.
Musk is so different, and he doesn't need to have a desire to show off his wealth like the others. So tell us a little bit about that. Why is he different?
Yeah.
He is more rich than the others,
right,
and yet he doesn't have this need to show it off.
Yeah. Well, anytime you get super rich, you have to start diversifying your assets. You can't yet let everything you own be in the company, right? And so they put money into real estate. That's why they own so many homes. Well, Elon sold off 6 or 7 homes for $120 million collectively a couple of years ago. He vowed to just not even own a home. It's reported that when he's in Texas for launches of SpaceX, he lives in a little 400 square foot casita, $40,000 foldable house that he rents from SpaceX. So he lives a Spartan life, although he does seem to enjoy staying with friends, doesn't he? Like at Trump's Mar-a-Lago, gorgeous place.
As would I.
So he doesn't mind doing that. He's not above doing that, which is just fine. But this idea of reduce, he applies it everywhere. When he decided SpaceX, when the Russians refused to sell him rockets because they thought it was ridiculous to try to get to Mars, and they spit on his shoes at the meeting, He decided that all a rocket ship is stainless steel and fuel. And that's what he basically stripped it down to. A Tesla has 10,000 moving parts. A Ford has 40,000, four times as many things that can go wrong. And in Twitter, he took it over and he cut 80% in about a matter of weeks. And a week or two later, they hosted almost 150 billion impressions on the platform for the World Cup. Those 80% of people weren't needed at all. And government is the same way. And so he then takes that into Doge. But in the US, we have a hard time letting go of our things. I think it might be worldwide. I mean, we have a $40 billion a year storage industry where thousands of us are keeping things 5 miles away that if we really needed them, they'd be in our home, but we don't want to let them go. I packed up 35 boxes during COVID, getting ready to leave Brooklyn, move down to be with my mom in Florida. I never went. I've never unpacked the boxes. They're lining walls in a bedroom, and I should just throw all that stuff out. I just can't bring myself to do it. What if I'm getting rid of something that might be of value?
Oh, absolutely. Let me jump on to lesson three. The highest nail gets pounded down first. Strap on a helmet, and you. One of
Right.
the quotes from that is the establishment comes down hard on Elon Musk.
So
He
hard.
wants to save the world, and Musk is portrayed as a danger to the world, a menace. Where did that start with him wanting to buy Twitter? Is that when he became the big boogeyman?
That's such a good read right there, Peter. And you're one of the few people to see that. We all thought we came to this party late. Oh, he got with Trump. Trump was only the third strike. The first was taking over that Twitter platform, which, by the way, he tried to get out of. And a liberal judge in Delaware, where a whole bunch of companies are incorporated, ruled that you must go through with this, a shotgun wedding. And then he did, and he freed the platform and he let Trump back on the platform, who was banned for life. I'm so appalled that any social media platform would try to ban a former US president for life for something he said. You're letting the Ayatollah mullahs of Iran on your platform, but you're going to ban a former US president. Shame on every platform that did that. And they all did. But then Elon let Trump back on, another strike. And then he released the Twitter files that showed the most corrupt, widespread, rampant violation of the First Amendment rights of millions of Americans and thousands of conservative voices on the social media platforms. And he restored those voices. And it's just terrible what the government did. And yet the media sat silent. They didn't care because it was conservative voices. And the media don't realize that next time it's going to be yours. Because during the Trump administration, Trump requested 5,500 liberal accounts be silenced on the platform. This is before Elon bought it. And Elon would refuse that request as well. Only Elon had the boulder sized balls to stand up and free his platform and say, we're not going to let government pressure us into censoring some voices. To hell with that. And that is lesson 6 of my book. Free speech is everything. Stand up and be heard. And that's a companion with lesson 7 on the media. To hell with them. They're shameless shills. Peter, I write columns and I do podcasts. I'm out on my own because the media wouldn't hire me after I left Fox. Okay. I did more stories on the Twitter files scandal, on this terrible violation. In the US, the First Amendment is everything, the bedrock of all of the rights that follow. I did more stories than the entire staffs of the New York Times and the Washington Post combined. Where were you guys? Why didn't you care? Shame on the both of them.
I want to pick up the free speech side because the chapter 6, as you said, and what are your thoughts? Because you go through the story. Actually, he said he would buy it, and when he did buy it, it looked like this was the worst deal ever,
Yeah.
because it seemed to be he was going to lose so much money. Advertisers left, and it was a concerted attack on him. And there, again, people wonder, did he actually want to buy it because he's the champion of free speech, but he tried to get out of it?
Yeah.
Was that a play?
So,
Is this 5D chess?
yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your
But
thoughts on
here's
all of
what's
that?
interesting on this is just constant, what Elon believes in that old Silicon Valley saying about moving fast and breaking things. And you just continually fix as you're going. You continually iterate, and reiterate as you're going on. And so that's what he did rather than a strategic ambition or plan from the start. It started with, yeah, he thought he could unlock value there. Then in late 2022, all tech stocks take a tumble down 25%. It's clear he's bid way too much. He wants to back out of the deal. And Twitter, which first said, you can't buy us, you're bad and we're independent, then said, actually, yeah, we'll take that high price. Then this Delaware court judge, Kathleen St. Jude McCormick or St. McCormick or something, who's really responsible for dozens of companies leaving Delaware because of her anti-corporate rulings. I mean, she almost has a crush on him. She has gone against Elon so many times and screwed him, this judge. She then rules, no, you have to proceed. Basically saying that, oh, we're going to go to trial because he knows he's going to lose. So then he just goes ahead and he pays way too much, $44 billion. And by the way, in Silicon Valley, it's almost uncouth, unsophisticated to use your own money to fund your company. You raise other people's money. He puts down, I think, 25 billion of the $44 billion price as his own. He raises the rest from investors, including a Saudi fund, where later, I think Senator Warren is saying they should investigate foreign involvement in X. You know, when the Saudi fund's invested in the Washington Post, it's invested in all across, investment classes in the U.S. And so he then does buy it, but then he frees it. There's an orchestrated campaign to make advertisers flee the platform and boycott it, to pressure them into it because, oh, he's going to make racist stuff come out. Like the guy is a racist and wants racist stuff to come out or something. What are you talking about? There was a whole story that made rounds, a study showing that, oh my God, in the first week, 12,000 anti-Semitic tweets were allowed on the platform when previously it was only 4,000 anti-Semitic tweets in the same period of the month before, something like that. Well, okay, so 14,000 tweets. On X, 6,000 tweets are posted every single second. Why are you guys worried about 14,000 tweets? Like, what are you doing? It was just a way to beat them up. And so he frees the platform, but now advertisers are coming back. Now they're up to 650 million regular monthly users. Now Elon's going to file suit against the bastards who organized that boycott and who are trying to bankrupt this platform and silence it because he refused to give in to government demands for censorship. The advertisers are on the wrong side here, and they're going to pay for it. The ones who organized it.
But he was on, was an interview was on, and he basically said "F you," I don't care, and that bravado, that balls, that attitude is like, wow, I respect that of someone
I
just standing up and
I
calling it out
love
for what it
that.
was and not
You know,
cowering to them.
I mean, it's something to look up to, right? Because not enough of us today will stand up and make ourselves be heard. We sat back while this country, the USA, was going off the edge of a cliff ideologically with the woke mind virus. We were beginning to believe stupid things like letting men into women's sports. Yay, because we're so egalitarian. I mean, we ran out of oppressed classes to come to the defense of. And LGBTQ, where they march saying that there's trans genocide. Our nation has 330 million people. 6 out of 1,000 may be trans. How many murders of trans people are there every year in the US? It's about 45. And most of them were prostitutes who had a surprise for their client, an unwanted surprise. So I don't understand what they're talking about with genocide. It's just a made up, oppressed class that wants special treatment. And it's just part of trying to tear a nation apart. So Elon steps in at great personal cost, at great security risk, at great cost to his shareholders. And I own Tesla stock. I failed to sell at $4.50 a share 6 months or so ago. And my brother, I put him in the stock. He said, "Do you think we should sell some?" No. Oh no, this is a long-term hold. It fell to $220 a share from 450. And so at great expense, he steps up for his country, his adopted home. And some people have a way of decrying this and criticizing it. What is wrong with these people?
I mean, his work ethic, and one of the chapters talk about that of his non-stop drive, and I know he's now stepped out of the political sphere back in to actually running those companies, but working crazy 120 hours a week, sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night. That's not necessarily a recipe to run a company. There are many parts to this, but yeah, he's someone who just does what has to be done, sleeps on the floor, and does what has to be done to make the job done.
Right. So, because there's one lesson in the book. It says most people are loafers. Work harder than you ever have before. And Elon says that by working 7 days a week, 10 or 12-hour days or longer, he'll get things done 40% faster than regular people who are only working regular hours. And he also wants his workers to know that he's willing to do everything that they are, to suffer as much as they are suffering. And that rallies the troops. So he's got this template that he uses every single time he goes into a new endeavor. And he sets up and he lives there on the premises. He moved into Twitter to start cutting and doing all this intensive things. He brings in his super programmers and San Francisco city officials, where an infant on the toddler on the playground recently had fentanyl overdosing because it came across fentanyl in a city park. San Francisco city officials then investigate Musk because he's running a hotel without a license, because he's sleeping on a couch in an office at Twitter offices. I mean, that's the kind of sense of priorities. You see, that's lesson 3. You're the highest nail, you get pounded down first. Elon had 20 different investigations of his companies going against him after Biden. One day after the midterm elections as president, he said, I think he should be investigated. I'm not saying he's done anything wrong. And then, of course, all these bureaucracies intensified their efforts. Let me give you one quick example, if I could. SpaceX. Over the course of 3 years, I think it got 1 million applications for several thousand job openings. Everyone wants to work there. This one guy with French and Canadian dual citizenship, I think it was, applies. And they end up interviewing him. They don't like his answers, the records show later. They don't give him the job. They don't fill the job. He files one complaint with the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. It's because of my citizenship. And they end up demanding millions of pages in records on all of their hiring, investigating him for refusing to hire asylum refugees when he's with a defense-oriented company that has to hire U.S. residents and citizens only. So one part of the government is going after him for not violating the rules set by another part of government. I mean, off of one complaint, and you guys are going to hassle this guy that much? This is clearly political, and the media never said a word about it. But I did in my book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk.
Lesson 4 was, I enjoyed reading Teaser Critics and Torture Enemies.
Yeah.
And you talk about that kind of personal feud with Zuckerberg, and later on about short selling, which we'll pick up in a bit. But there is that competition with Zuckerberg and I guess the Facebook satellite blowing up, and then Musk saying, well, come on, we'll have a cage fight type of thing. And then the battle with Bezos, the whole the 2 rockets, SpaceX, and was it Origin Blue for Amazon? So huge competition, and Musk kind of takes it in one way with Zuckerberg. It's like a childhood, it's like a playground feud. It's like, come on, we'll play it out. And that's what he does.
Yeah. I mean, and he's having fun. And the thing is, now I've met Mark Zuckerberg. I've actually spent an hour or 2 with Jeff Bezos at a dinner party of mine years ago that he crashed when I was the managing editor of Forbes magazine. And those 2 are super different, right? But then you have Musk, who's of just an utterly different realm from those 2. I mean, Zuckerberg, very shy and awkward, of course. Bezos, hail fellow well met, man. One of the best laughs in the world. You're just dying to be part of his party. And Elon Musk, I haven't met yet, but I will have him. He will be mine, right? But Elon goads Mark Zuckerberg into a cage fight because Mark is a rather accomplished MMA amateur fighter. There was just a video moved on X, and this guy's in the middle of fighting, and he's smiling at Mark Zuckerberg, who's beaming in the audience. And so I think Mark would have actually beaten Elon Musk and made him submit, Elon Musk said his favorite move was the whale, where he would just, pounce on top of Mark. He's over 200 pounds and 6 foot something, and Mark is a slight little guy, just mean as heck, I imagine. And so the thing is, though, I mean, and Elon actually wanted to raise money for charity. He wanted to put it in the Rome Colosseum. So what started as merely as a flippant remark suddenly then takes a shape in Elon's mind, and he starts setting up not just a little thing, but a huge thing, right? And Zuckerberg is just responding seriously to everything, just as brittle and serious as possible, which of course just made it even funnier because Elon's just having fun, man. And see, I saw a tweet on X the other day that said, this must be Elon's fourth time through this simulation because he's just having so much fun and he's just saying, what the hell? Swing for the fences. And it's fun to watch. At the very least, we get to thrill to the universe that Elon Musk is a part of. Lesson 11 of the 11 lessons of Elon says that the
The
most
most
likely
likely outcome is the most ironic one.
most opposite of what you expected. Look at all of the king's horses and all the king's men, all the people allied against Donald Trump, stopping him from running for office, put him in prison, 4 different trials. I mean, predicted for dead again and again, 2 assassination attempts, more to come, I'm sure. And he got elected. The very opposite of what they tried to make happen. And if life is a big video game and you're the guy behind it, running it, you do want kind of entertaining outcomes, the most entertaining outcomes. And that keeps happening, man, especially since Trump won the election.
Here, there was another entertaining one, and you talk about it in lesson 7. On the media, to hell with them. They're shameless shills, and the BBC takedown, and then you go into that. But it's that, and I remember vividly that interview with, and it goes. And Musk was told about content you don't like. And he said, content you don't like or hateful, describe a hateful thing. And the BBC interview mentions something that's slightly racist or slightly sexist. And Elon says, what, do you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned? And the reporter claims, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying no. And Elon's just on a roll.
Eating him up.
And then I say, sir, you don't know anything about what you're talking about. And I
Really?
remember the whole setup,
He's
but
just
Elon is there
stunned.
relaxed, enjoying it.
Yes. And reporters are stunned today when someone dares push back on them because it's just too fragile, the entire ecosystem. Whereas Elon Musk has flop you money.
Yeah.
Okay. He does, and he's got the X platform and he has circumvented the media entirely, and they hate him for that, even as they rely on his platform. The New York Times has a print circulation now down to about 300,000 in a day. It can reach millions of people through that X platform. And it used to be that officialdom, the White House, they released scoops, new announcements through the New York Times. You went to the New York Times and the Washington Post to try to give them an exclusive, and then everyone else skis in those tracks and covers that story that way. Now they announce it on the X platform, and the New York Times is quoting the X platform. It's totally taken over after all of the media, except for a few of us like yours truly, said he's destroying Twitter. There's 2 or 3 books out about his destroying Twitter. Are any of you guys going to come out and issue a correction or an apology? Elon knows what he's doing. And so does President Trump. And I think we ought to give them both a little more leeway. Just back off and say, wait a minute, let him go ahead and do this. Let's remove the handcuffs. Let's see what happens. Everything's fixable. Give him a chance.
But both Trump and Elon have risked a lot, have set aside what they were very good at and actually done what's right for the country. But I want to put one other thing. I guess Musk's success on X, whenever he was being lambasted, carrying the kitchen sink in the headquarters and being demonized, and then at that time Tucker leaves Fox or is sacked, and Musk brings him on. I think 120 million views for that first interview.
Yeah.
And that was all part of it. That couldn't have been planned, but it shows how Musk was thinking. And to bring someone on like Tucker, 120 million views, bam, that puts X on the map in terms of having interviews, in terms of the live streaming, and then widens the appeal.
And, Megyn Kelly, the former Fox and NBC anchor and friend of mine, she blurbed the back cover of my book, which is very kind of her. She came out recently and put up a post saying, look, my small company that I've got now since she went out on her own is getting, collectively more viewers than CNN's primetime shows.
Yep.
And so, my gosh, it just obliterates the idea of where the value really lies. Now, Musk, let's remember another lesson in the book is dream huge and be willing to spend decades pursuing it. Back in 2000, when Musk was part of PayPal, he had merged his company into PayPal. He wanted X.com to be the everything app where all center of life is on X.com. They said, we just want to process payments. And so he left the company. They fired him as CEO when he was on his honeymoon in flight. I think it was to Australia or something. It's the first break he'd taken in years. And he must have been thinking, you know what? You show one sign of humanity and weakness, and they will just screw you. So he went back to confront them in person. He leaves the company. They hold on to X.com, bury it. And around 2018, Elon buys it back for $1 million. And he puts a post on Twitter to say, this is just sentimental value. But then he buys Twitter and he renames it X.com. And soon Visa will start allowing you to send payments to your friends, to your plumber online, to bill your client. He's got a new encrypted chat service that's in beta now. I just used it yesterday, gave it a try, where he could replace a Telegram or a Signal. I mean, they're just going to gobble up more and more different apps. Soon you'll be able to, I think, buy stock or sell it through the X platform. And you'll be able to do the same with crypto. Now, it's going to take a huge amount of effort, regulatory wise, to get there. But the platform is in place. And the 650 million regular users are there and in place. And so you can then start to add more and more features. But this is a dream he had in 2000. It's 25 years later, but he still is going after it. He never gave it up. He just decided to work on other things in the meantime until it was time, I guess.
How does it fit in with the whole issue of dudes? I mean, that is very, very current. I think there was a headline: Elon Musk's disappointed by Trump's spending bill, says it undermines
Yeah,
what Doge is doing. So how does that? Because this is the big, beautiful bill, and Musk. I mean, Trump is a businessman. They're both businessmen, and they understand the importance of success on the business side. You can
right.
employ and have an economy that grows, and that's capitalism. But how does this criticism of Doge? I mean, that should have been signed into law immediately, and yet
Yep.
you've got Capitol Hill just not doing what they should
Oh,
be
yeah,
doing.
because both parties were feeding at the same trough.
Yeah.
I think that Elon leaves Washington not defeated and not just disappointed. He leaves disgusted. He cannot believe that both parties would be in favor of the profligate, wasteful spending going on. He cannot believe that Republicans who are in Trump's party have balked at putting the effect of those cuts into law. Although the big beautiful bill does include 1.75 trillion over 10 years in cuts. And that is the 175 billion a year that Elon has managed to cut. And while it's far shy of the $1 trillion goal he set, that's what he always does, set a huge high goal. I think he's disgusted that he didn't get farther, but it's a start. The people are in place, Doge programmers, technology systems. And once you have systems in place, now other things can happen and change. And Elon outside the process can shine a big old spotlight to 200 million followers on X and say, look at what these jerks are doing. Because of Doge, we now know over 400 government agencies are unable to pass a routine audit. We now know 500 million payments, 1/3 of all government payments go out with no tracker number to be traced to know where the money went. That's total waste. We now know 7,000 NGOs got 90% of the $300 billion in annual aid going out, the same 7,000. We now know billions of it was probably round tripping back into the US, into NGOs that then hire the relatives of politicians. We've got Democrats saying Elon's trying to steal your data and steal your money and stop your payments so he can get better tech. The guy's worth like 200 or 300 billion dollars. That's not going to be the motivation. It's stupid of you guys to even argue that. And at the same time, You guys in the media had no problem with Biden family members receiving $24 million to shell accounts for doing nothing. That was okay, but Elon is suspect. It's a twisted upside down world, and I can't even believe the media perpetuate this.
But my last thought with you is, as what led you to doing Musk? Because his he is a genius, and his leadership will be studied for generations because of his wealth creation, and his ability to do what he has done, and in brand new technologies in space, in the electric field, in AI. I mean, it's all new areas that he's working on, not just repeated what's happened before. But
Right,
what for you led you to Musk, and what did you take away as maybe some surprising discoveries? Because I think whenever you may plan a book, you've got an idea where you want to go, but as you begin to
yes,
research, I guess that can take you in a different direction.
right.
So, what
Yeah,
led you to Musk, and what did you come away with
well,
surprises?
right. I learned to love business when I was at the Wall Street Journal, and then when I moved to Forbes magazine, I learned to love capitalism and heroes of capitalism and the triumphs and travails on the path to creating new wealth. And we have the billionaires list at Forbes. And so I met a number of billionaires and I became fascinated with the idea of this up by the bootstraps. They started with the same stuff I started with. There must be something different about these guys and these gals, the self-made ones. So I was always fascinated about Musk anyway. But then I started working on this book thanks to Eric Nelson, a very talented editor in charge of the Broadside Books imprint, the conservative kind of little side of HarperCollins. And he's a wonderful editor. I worked with him on the Trump Century book for Lou Dobbs. And he came to me and said, couldn't a smart business writer do a management book on lessons we get from Elon? And boom, I had a proposal ready within a weekend. And if any of you out there ever are thinking of writing a book, the key is this: spend a weekend writing the proposal, 10,000 words, set it out. If you can write it, you really want to do it then and finish it. If you don't finish the proposal, you won't finish the book. Well, that baby just spilled out of me. And when I started on it, he was a big hero. And the more I'm working on it, he's turning into this villain and he's being demonized by the same media people that I just despise for what they've turned into. And that's when my book became more and more a defense of Elon and gaining insight into better understanding how he operates so that you have less chance of hating him because now you know what he's really working on. And one thing I was struck by was how can someone so great be so eager for our approval? And how can someone so accomplished be so wanting to be loved by as many as possible? And I think we all share those human traits. I think I went on television because I was desperate for the approval of strangers. And I think that Elon, even though he doesn't have to worry about a single thing any one of us thinks about him, I think he was so happy to be on that stage with Trump and to be celebrated and adored by the people in that room who were grateful to him for helping rescue this country from the woke mind virus.
Yeah, 100%. Let me bring up once again, that is the front cover, Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, by Dennis Kneale. You can get on anyway if you're in the UK, US, wherever you're watching. You can get on hardback, paperback, audio if you listen on the go, or on ebook if you're reading your Kindle anyway. Dennis, it is a fascinating book on a really fascinating character. And I really appreciate you giving us your thoughts on the book, and sharing some of those insights that people obviously can find if they get hold of it. All the links are in the description.
Yeah,
Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts around it.
it's been a terrific conversation. I love it. I've done quite a few interviews now, but I love it when you end up hearing fresh questions from a totally new perspective that others hadn't thought of. And you've done that several times. So thank you. And by the way, that audio version of the book, they let me do it with my own voice. I just
Oh, you
loved it.
did it yourself.
I was
Oh,
drunk with power. Usually they hire a professional actor, but I was drunk with power. And I'm like, once again, because I'm an optimist, just waiting for the voice offers to pour in. for me to read other people's books. So far, nothing yet. Hey, have a glorious day. This is really fun, Peter, and I appreciate you.
What was that like? Because I've talked to different authors, and it's
Yeah,
intriguing because it takes a long time. It
yeah,
is a
yeah.
marathon session to
It was like
actually
3 days.
record that. But when you have someone, the author, reading it, you kind of get to know that. You feel as though you've spent time with them, and I think it makes it much
Yes.
more personal and connects with the audience.
It's one to one. It's not broadcasting and one to many. It is instead a one-to-one conversation. And that, in a sense, is very much like what podcasting is. It's a more intimate, where even though you're hoping to reach an audience of thousands or millions, each person out there, I think, feels like it's a one-on-one conversation. And it is good in that way and intimate in that way. So yeah, I was in a sound booth, with water and the headphones and hearing the gorgeous tones of my own voice. I was just I was in love, baby.
It is an experience. Maybe one day I will do. But Dennis, thank you so much for giving us your time. Fascinating book, and thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Take care now.